Welcome to Chamber Talk with North Orange County Chamber. Our guest today is Jose Trinidad Castañeda. It's great to see you again, Jose, and thank you for sharing time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrew. It's a pleasure to join you on North Orange County Chamber Talk.
Thank you. Jose, you're one of three candidates who are campaigning to be elected as City Council members for the City of Buena Park, District 2. You earned your degrees in biology from Fullerton College and then anthropology from California State University in Los Angeles. Since graduating, you have continued to work with local policy issues, or should I say on local policy issues, led county-wide campaigns, and for the past 5 years played a significant role in passing legislation. You serve the community and advocate for the needs of underserved communities across Orange County. Jose, would you mind highlighting some of the most significant accomplishments that you've created during this volunteer experience and so forth?
Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Andrew. And really, it starts with my story. Growing up, my backyard was the 91 freeway. And I grew up in Anaheim, Fullerton, Buena Park, all within a very small area. And it really it shaped my whole life, my health, the choices that I've made in my education and career. And really and truly, I've entered politics because I've wanted to stop these cycles. And the cycles that I'm referring to are the cycles of air, so not having clean air, and what that means for families like mine who didn't really have that kind of choice of whether or not you can open a window and expect a fresh breeze that wasn't heavily polluted by the 91 freeway, or clean water, and what to expect when there's just heavily mineralized water coming out of the tap. And so I got involved in environmental policy first and foremost. And when I went to Cal State LA, I was taking the train. I was taking the Buena Park Metrolink station to Cal State LA every day and just thinking, how can we make a cleaner world? So I became an environmental policy commissioner in the student government there. I ran for the student president, and I brought that back with me to Orange County. So I went to Fullerton City Council. I saw that some of the decisions that I thought were beneficial for my community, my family, my neighborhoods weren't being made, and it got me riled up.
Okay.
It got me more excited about getting out and advocating. So over time, I had used my voice, and lo and behold, I established a strong track record on getting that PFAS well treatment 1A over at it's technically the city of Fullerton property, but in the city of Anaheim across the street from Northgate. Right. I helped get the Orange County Power Authority launched and started, and now serve as chair of the Community Advisory Committee. I've worked on a number of issues, but I'm very proud of the housing legislation that I've helped to work on, especially ADUs. Back in 2017, I was looking for a place to live, and rents were already unaffordable back then. So I asked my dad, hey, what can we do about the garage? Can we convert the garage into a studio? He was open and willing and said, okay, sure, mijo, you can go ahead and look at how much it would cost and come back. I went to the city of Fullerton and asked, where do you get started?
Yes.
The city of Fullerton had a $12,500 fee just for all dwelling units, but even for accessory dwelling units, so those backyard houses or a garage conversion less than 500 square foot, that would cost me $12,500 to get started. And I thought, wow, this is like a significant chunk of what could be a $60,000 project. And so I thought, this is not.
When you say get started, sorry for interrupting, when you say get started, is that just sort of like to initially put in your plans for what you want to do?
That was just the permit fee.
Wow.
Learning that Fullerton was charging that much for their permit fee, on top of what would become, a $60,000 garage conversion for, 480 square foot.
Right.
That to me was not acceptable. And so I organized, as one does when they want to change the legislation. And I worked with an accessory dwelling unit architect called Randy Smith. I worked with some homeowners that had also gone to City Hall and I had just spoke with on the second floor. And I took the group to our Parks and Recreation Commission, had them explain this fee was just too much for the kind of project we were willing to do. The Parks and Recreation Commission agreed.
Oh.
And so they recommended that the City Council take a look at this and eliminate this. And staff recommendation, plus the Parks and Recreation Commission, plus myself and a few other advocates in the room, all culminated into the City Council eliminating that fee in 5 months. Mm-hmm. And that became the impetus for some bills that we now know as AB 68 and AB 69 and other ADU bills that Assemblywoman Sharon Quirk Silva has championed, like recently AB 2221, which now allows for 2-story ADUs, which I've now begun to work on in Fullerton for my cousin.
Right.
And it's really been exciting to know that when you put your mind to it and you you really dedicate yourself, you can actually get real significant change. And it doesn't matter if someone wants to label it as left or right. This is really about providing those cleaner environments and more housing opportunities for everyone, just so they have that choice. If they don't want to do it, they don't have to. But now we have that choice, and nothing makes me more proud.
I think that's a huge accomplishment, and I've got to say, well done for that. That is something that not the average person can go on and do. Just out of interest, once this ADU is completed, does the property get reassessed and reevaluated?
Yes, and that is something that we would want to introduce in future legislation because for those of you who don't know, the Orange County Assessor's Office will reassess an entire property with an ADU, and sometimes the future tax the tax valuation will skyrocket, and so it then becomes unaffordable in the long term for that homeowner to be able to, just afford the taxes on having the primary residence as well as the ADU, or even if there's multiple, the primary residence, the JADU, which is a garage conversion, and then the ADU.
And then, just sorry, I'm not wishing to push into this subject because obviously you've thought about it a lot, so you probably already have an answer. Of course, that's also a large amount of where cities receive their income to pay for streets, all the rest of it. Are you thinking there should be some type of, yes, it would be the tax evaluation obviously is going to go, property evaluation is going to go up, but then there's a cap on that? Or what were you thinking? Because obviously, we would
want to push towards more home ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And if folks were willing to learn more about how they could split their lot and have just the ADU be sold off, and conveyed separately from the primary residence, that would allow for a new family to purchase that home, and they would pay the taxes, the property taxes on that smaller home, but it's still their home. And the primary residence, well, they would have provided a new home, but also staved off any higher property tax hikes that they wouldn't be able to afford long term, especially if they're on a fixed income or et cetera.
All right.
So hopefully the goal would be for there to be more home opportunities, but also if an aging family wanted to, they could switch and have their current tax valuation go to the ADU, and then they could sell the primary residence, and that would be where the new tax valuation, which is increased for fair market value, that's where the new family would be able to move in. So there's just a little bit of a switch where the residents would still stay within the same property.
Right.
But it's just been split on the tax roll, and things have just been switched up a little bit. But
well, there's a lot more to that, isn't there? So we could go on all day, really.
That's a can of worms.
Yeah, that is a can of worms, isn't it? But I at least you're moving forward with something that generally not is always spoken about. So it's a good topic. So I appreciate that. So thank you for sharing that. So in recent years, you've dealt with county policies. So why suddenly now run, hey, I'm going to run for the city of Buena Park?
Buena Park has been my home for my whole life. I grew up in the flower track with my cousins every summer and spent every holiday at Boys Rank. I've been walking to the Buena Park Metrolink station from the Fullerton side of the Fullerton Airport for 8 years, and took the OCTA bus to Fullerton College, took the Metrolink to LA for school and work, was even a Metrolink brand ambassador because I was always posting selfies and tagging. So clearly Buena Park means a lot to me. And I want to run for Buena Park City Council because this community is my community. It's where my family has lived. It's where I went to Boys and Girls Club for many, many, many years, where I first learned about NSYNC. And Buena Park City Council could do a better job at listening to its residents, especially from District 2. In District 2, it's bordered by the 91, the 5, the Metrolink train tracks, and the Fullerton Airport. And so we have a lot of issues that have gone unaddressed, such as air quality, such as housing, and kind of substandard apartments right now. One of the most shocking things that you would learn about District 2 fairly quickly is that there's been an apartment that was burned on Christmas Eve with a family of 8 having gone homeless for a couple months. And it's still burnt to this day. So we still have plenty of work to do if we're going to have city leadership that listens to its residents. And I know I can make a difference with all the track record that I've built. So why not? So why not have an intelligent, competent, compassionate person run to represent a district that is primarily Latino, Bangladesh, actually one of the most diverse communities I've ever seen. And now that I've knocked on so many doors, thousands of doors, texted, called, emailed, thousands of people across this district, I know for a fact that I'm here to listen, and they're willing to teach and share their stories.
So you shared with us a very personal experience as what actually motivated you from the start. And as we get more wise and experienced in life, other things come into play. So I suppose, what is your main motivation, or what gives you focus and inspires you to keep moving forward?
I'm always grounded by the need that is out there. And every single time I go and knock on someone's door and they're willing to share their story, I'm reminded of my own family's struggles. And, I'm, having studied anthropology, I'm my family's kind of just librarian, archivist, someone who keeps the family records. And my grandparents came on trains through the Bracero program, where, upon coming through the border, they were sprayed with, chemicals, and they were sent to go work in the fields.
Right.
And they caught their break.
Right.
There were Americans who were willing to lend a helping hand, and they were on their way towards citizenship. And then they, settled here in Fullerton, Anaheim, Buena Park, built a huge family that now numbers into the hundreds across all of North Orange County. And every single time I meet someone, there is something that they share that reminds me of my family. And and I do what I do, and I get up in the morning every day because I love my family and I love my community. And honestly, that's what drives me. There's no reason why I would have been out in 115-degree weather on crutches because I had sprained my ankle, having just recovered from COVID, and dealing with the loss of my grandma all at the same time, if I wasn't driven by an incredibly deep well of love for just who my family made me to become, and just who the community is. So thank you for that question, because it's always nice to share that and remind myself as well.
You mentioned there knocking on doors, and previously did earlier as well. What seems to be the senses and the feeling of people as they're coming out of COVID?
Most people are surprised that someone is knocking on their door. Many people have commented that I was the first person to have knocked on their door in 15 plus years.
Wow.
So this is really a community that has not had a lot of engagement in that way. And in terms of post-COVID, or however you want to describe this pandemic, I'm not sure people are really out of the pandemic. There's been a lot of instability, and it's been visible with the number of furniture, living room sets that's been on the curbs from people having moved out. And now that we're heading into different economic conditions, I'm fairly certain that there's going to be some instability that we can hedge for, and we can just, we can stabilize with some strong leadership that has a stronger economic outlook, and knows how to bring some policies that can inject some of that economic activity back into our communities at the neighborhood by neighborhood level.
And your drive and accomplishments are phenomenal, so congratulations on that. If you were elected, what changes and what challenges are you anticipating as you're sort of starting into a new role?
Thank you. And I've definitely had to think about funding. Funding has to be the number one thing that a council member thinks about, because no programs, no community events, no staffing happens without that. And in terms of ideas that I want to bring, such as just to throw one idea out there, an accessory commercial unit program.
Okay.
That still takes funding and staffing and some subject matter expertise. And so that's one of the challenges I'm anticipating, identifying funding sources for various sets of policies and programs I want to introduce to the agenda. Fortunately, I'm very, very detail-oriented, and I've created an Excel sheet with links to various grants and deadlines and other funding opportunities that could come to the city of Buena Park should the council introduce resolutions and ordinances at various times. And that only comes with experience. Honestly, if I hadn't worked at the city of Irvine, if I hadn't been on as many commissions as I have, that wouldn't be possible.
Right. You're already ahead.
A little bit.
Yeah. So to find out more about you, Jose, and listen to maybe or read more about your ideas, where can people find that out? Where can they contact you?
Absolutely. You can check out JoseTrinidadCastañeda.com. That's JoseTrinidadCastañeda.com. Can blame my parents for that very long name. And it has my cell phone, email, all my social media, LinkedIn, etc. Or you can Google Jose Trinidad Castañeda, and most things would come up. So happy to get your message and respond as soon as I can.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Good to see that you're able to do all that. So as we're ending the podcast today, again, we really appreciate you coming in and spending time with us. I may have missed on something. Is there any final message you would like to share with everybody who's listening?
I'm a lifelong student, so I'm always willing to learn and take a step back to truly understand where people's expertise or experience fills what I don't understand. And that's what truly makes sound policy. And hopefully, if elected, I can bring that kind of that thought, that critical policy making to our communities in Buena Park who truly deserve that kind of leadership. And lo and behold, if we can get all these amazing things, if we can change the game, then Buena Park will really become much more of a model city in Orange County than anyone would have ever expected. And so my final message to everyone listening is thank you for taking the time to hear my story, but also feel free to reach out and have a conversation with me yourself. Happy to share more. There's always something that we can talk about. And other than that, Andrew, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you again for sharing your time today. I would like to just say to listeners, we invite you to join our email list by visiting nocchamber.com and selecting sign up for more news at the top of the page. For more interviews, please visit chambertalk.podbean.com. Thank you very much.